Hello. Hello. Gonna have to bear with because hay fever is absolutely kicking me today. So we're gonna have to bear with, but let me know who's here. Make sure everything's working. We'll get going. Speak about Chelsea PSG. Speak about Rodrygo a little bit. Answer a few questions. MC acting up a bit. Mike's acting up. Why would that be? Still acting up, or let me know. Is the mic okay? Oh, it's good. Okay, nice one. Right, seems all right now. Okay, maybe it's just a quick little thing. Audex Jack saying he thinks we've got it against PSG. I hope so. PSG can do real damage to us. I smell a big score game. Let's hope not, MB. Hit the like button, as Julius is saying here. We've got 14 already. We've got 35 in the building already. So let's get that to 30 to 35 as quickly as possible. I might have to keep turning the camera off to blow my nose as well because, yeah, like I say, hay fever is absolute. I don't know if any of you guys suffer with hay fever as well, but wow. It's at an all-time high today. I think this is the worst I've had it this year. Terrible. Sanchez will make mistakes. I think we'll do it. Tactical says. Or Tactic Evolution. Someone said Lavia back in full training. I did see that, but we're going to speak about a few different things as to why maybe he doesn't. Hay fever is a humbler. Yeah, it literally horrible stuff because it's like you're not ill, but it's just you just feel it. It's like, yeah, it's just grotty. It's horrible. Sounds like he's always we had Tuchel. He always gives us the tactical edge. He did always give us a tactical edge, especially like defensively. But I have faith in Maresca in terms of the tactical edge. It's just against this sort of team, I think it's going to be so hard. I've got a presentation type thing to go through, like we usually do, with lots of pictures of sort of PSG's press, PSG's sort of build up, how Chelsea can build through it. Then we're going to go over to the tactics board to speak about, and I've already sort of preset the tactics board ready for the PSG talk, and we'll talk about that game. But I have just got this tactics board up first from the last game, and I thought, is there any questions, anything people want to talk about in regards to the last game first, anything about Rodrygo, before we really go into the PSG factor of it? You think Bayern laid the blueprint? They went very attacking, very sort of man-to-man pressure, but it was very sort of, yes, Cole's back to number 20. Good shout. Very good shout. My tactics board keeps sort of resetting it every time, so thank you for that. Play James at right back. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that as well. I'm going to talk about that. Yes, but in that Bayern game, they did suffocate them in their own build-up. That is true. But what I would say about that is that it came to be a bit more of a chaotic game where sort of anything could happen. If Bayern had got the goal where they deserved it, then maybe a different game altogether. But, you know, it's one of those games where you leave yourselves open to counter-attacking situations at times as well. And you have players like that PSG do, they can hurt you. Now that he's here, I'm happy with the direction we're headed in. I think that's fair. You just don't trust our defence. Yeah, neither do I overall. There's a few tweaks that I would make for this game. I'm going to quickly mute and quickly blow my nose. Let me know is there any questions you want to talk about with this, or do you want to get straight into the PSG? Let me know in the chat. I'll start quickly sort this out. Okay, Stella said PSG. Do you want to go straight into PSG, or do you want to speak about anything from the last game? Is it better that we play Enzo, Casado, and Lavia midfield? Depends if Lavia's back, but we're going to speak about it. Enzo, I think, should start, but he's going to have a very specific role for me, which is different, somewhat different, but he's done it before. Daniel saying PSG as well. Okay. Let's start off then with the sort of presentation-y bit that we've got going on here. We'll start here. PSG looks scary. Yeah, they do. Right. How can Chelsea beat PSG? Now, against Real Madrid, the first few sort of images we're going to show through here against Real Madrid, what they were doing, again, with those rotations, you know that they do it. Nuno Mendes pushing up into this half space. When Vitinha allows him to move forward, you've got Hakimi, who's sort of got the license on this side anyway. Something PSG are excellent at doing, really, really, really good at doing, is placing the forwards that are on the inside in the correct places to pin defenders. So what you've got here is you've got PSG pinning this sided defender rather than being in the middle, and meaning that sort of Rudiger, or I think it's Rudiger here, could sort of shift over into the middle to take this guy. He's pinned Asensio so that Asensio can't jump up to apply pressure on Nuno Mendes. So what this does is that creates that sort of breadth of space, which is where Nuno Mendes can then impact. So Chelsea have got to be careful on, one, the spacing of their back four, or whoever's in that sort of back line, to make sure that they're not pinned and they can jump into these areas, which is something they like to do with that man-to-man press. But it's also about the midfield and how they cover it, because as you can see here, because they're trying to go man for man, but it's not very intense, they're not cutting off this passing lane into Nuno Mendes, but the midfield is also just vacating completely. You've got all three of these midfielders just completely vacating that space. And the space in between there is there for PSG to exploit. And we're going to speak about how you can do that against PSG as well. But you've got to do it defensively when PSG are against you. Now, how PSG were pressing last night, again, they sort of do it in a bit of a 4-2-4, but or 4-4-3. 4-4-3, that's Todd Bowley. 4-3-3, where they try to sort of, again, shift you into those wide areas and stop you from coming in from wide areas into the centre. What they do sometimes lack is that ability to cut out that pass, which I think there's an image of in a minute, where you can find yourself in these wide areas and find that diagonal pass behind their defensive midfielders, but ahead of their two centre-backs. So we're going to speak about that. And here, this is the example. So as you can see, the positioning of the striker, again, you've got both centre-backs for PSG. They're sort of in there and they're just waiting and being quite patient with this. You've got this line of three, and you've basically got a 3v3 in this wide area here because of this. If we click it, oh, there it is. I don't know why they're separate. Click this on one. The PSG defenders are a little bit late to react because they're so sort of okay with just being and having that extra man in the back line, that this opens up and you can find that space, like I say, behind the midfielders, because they're sort of attracted to the ball and they're trying to sort of pressure and apply pressure on the ball. But in front of the defenders, they're not as active in this sort of pocket. So I think getting players on the ball in those pockets is going to be key. And I think this is where João Pedro could be the key for Chelsea in this game, ahead of Delap, which we're going to speak about why, because I think Delap can also be really, really useful in this game. But when coming to the decision, if you can only pick one of them, I think this is a huge reason as to why I'd like João Pedro in this area to sort of affect these pockets of play, which I think is a real highlight of how you can sort of hurt PSG. Go back to this. This is just something to sort of take into account, which we're going to get to on the tactics board later. But when PSG lose the ball, they will swarm and they will press and they will counter press and look to win the ball back. So again, something you can look to do against this is, can you go direct into the striker? Can you go and bypass that counter press who are going to be in and around there? Can you get over that counter press and then can you find the space to attack, rather than trying to play through it, getting caught on the ball and giving them easy sort of minimal effort but high XG chances? That's what you want to sort of cut out of that. So again, here the PSG pressing from goal kicks, again, very, very active. You've got Ousmane Dembele, who doesn't stop, even just along this line. When you watch him, he's sort of along this line, he's zigzagging and he's waiting and he's ready to absolutely bound down on the keeper. So one thing, Robert Sanchez has to be careful in this game, because it's a mistake waiting to happen with Ousmane Dembele pressing him. We either go long straight away to bypass that press and play through this man-to-man, or we're going into these wide areas. We're trying to clip into those channels. We cannot afford to lose the ball in here with this sort of pressure along the top of the 18-yard box. It can't happen. However, what you can do, and what this actually leads to, is going direct, is the space, like I said, even in a settled possession, when we're talking about this, you can see that there's a good space that you can pick up between the midfield line and the defensive line. But when you do it from here as well, when you go long against PSG, and this happened for Liverpool when they got it, when they brought Nunez on and they managed to fashion a goal from it. When they go long, the ability to split again the lines between the first line of engagement and the second line and the third line of engagement, the defensive and midfield lines, there's a lot of space to win there. Yes, Vinicius Junior here is 1v3, but he's gambling and he's in there whether to one, if that's going to go through, if that's going to go past it, then he can get on it and he can go towards goal. If he can't get on it, can he cause a little bit of an upset? Can he make them challenge for the ball to then end up with the ball back in this space where hopefully those runners are attacking to sort of, again, impact this space and get into there. So the likes of Casado is somebody that you can expect to be sort of intense going from here to here. Enzo, you would want to do this. Cucurella, Pedro Neto especially as well in wide areas, but also on the break, he doesn't have to break in wide areas. He can break into these spaces using that speed. So this is something that you want to do against this PSG team, is go direct when it's there. One, when the counter press is sort of activated, but two, if, like I say, if this sort of high pressure is there, it's more than okay to play over the top. And this is why as well, João Pedro, and this would be where the lap's sort of good as well, but João Pedro sort of has the technical ability along with the sort of outlet play to make all three of these players work and think. And same as Delap, like I say, he'd make them think, he would sort of give them a bit of a bruise, bit of a battle. But I think that outlet play and being that guy is going to be really important, even if you're not the one winning the ball. Against Aston Villa, now let's go into sort of how they... So last night, after the Madrid game, went and watched the Villa game back and the Arsenal game back. And then I also watched the Liverpool game back, but I watched that one on like 2.5 speed. So that one was a bit quicker because there were specific moments that I wanted to see in that game. Whereas the Villa game and the Arsenal game, I wanted to watch really in depth. So again, this was a bit of a 4-2-3-1 press from Villa, and we saw the same from Arsenal. So we're going to talk about how Chelsea can kind of utilise that. This midfield was Tielemans in the 10, Onana, and I think it was Kamara at the time. So keep that in mind when we're talking about the midfield that we're going to configure for this Chelsea team and how it can go head-to-head. Morgan Rogers was on the right, McGinn was on the left, and they were coming in quite narrow, but they were ready to press. Again, the fullbacks were ready to be intense and follow these players into those areas. The midfielders, the two midfielders here, were ready to track back and follow these runners, which is important as well. So can the midfielders do the retreat duties? Can the fullbacks do the intense sort of stepping up duties? Again, one of the defenders often would do that as well. So you want one of those defenders to be strong when stepping out from the back. And here's an example of that with, this is how PSG pressed against Aston Villa, But again, look at the space. So they're pinning that sort of back line where PSG are playing. But then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of PSG. It looks more like a 5-1, 4-5-1. But you can see they're going man for man over the park. So if you can go direct into this zone and then get that sort of drag back into here with these players running off the backs of their men to receive the ball in that space, that's something we've already spoke about. That's definitely something you can do to hurt them. So you want those players in central areas to be able to latch onto that ball in that sense. This, again, with PSG, this is Morgan Rogers. Where he's coming inside from that right-hand side, Mendes doesn't know whether to come all the way in with him in case sort of you get that late run from the right, which, again, something to keep in mind for when I'm talking about who's going to play later. But receiving that ball and being a nuisance as that next pocket player, because you've got the number 10 in here pinning Vitinha, he can't get over to help. You've got the centre forward sort of pinning both defenders. So Nuno Mendes is in a little bit of trouble there, and that ball is quite easy to access, like I say, because of the positioning of the number 10 and even Onana sort of dragging Neves here. Again, we go back to the pressing, bit of a 4-2-3-1 again. Got the two pivot, they're sort of watching those midfielders. You've got Rogers placed ready to press on Nuno Mendes if he needs to. The number 10 sort of dropped off on Vitinha, so Tielemans was following Vitinha quite nicely. Again, McGinn in a bit of a hybrid role, and then the striker. This one is now Arsenal and how they press. So again, this was sort of a 4-2-3-1 into a 4-1-4-1 press. Declan Rice being a little bit more aggressive to come in here with João Neves. But if he was to spin off and go around the corner, then of course Rice would follow, and that would be more of a 4-2-3-1. Ødegaard was more sort of with the role of following Vitinha in those deeper areas. Saka, a bit wider on Nuno Mendes. Martinelli, sometimes a little bit deeper, which we're going to talk about, his narrow positioning to sort of handle Hakimi. And then again, you had, was it Trossard in this game? Through the middle? There's either Trossard or Moreno. I think it's Trossard. So as you can see here, you've got Martinelli a little bit deeper and a little bit narrower. He's ready to he's in a hybrid role where he can get back to help Timber if he needs to out wide, but he's also ready to apply pressure behind whoever this is here. I think that is Trossard again, to sort of apply pressure and stop Neves from receiving the ball easily. Again, Saka, he's ready in a bit of a hybrid role, but he's ready to apply pressure if it goes all the way back to Nuno Mendes. That's his side of the pitch. And then again, Declan Rice, the two midfielders, and then you've got Martin Odegaard sort of hovering between the two again. This is where they went wrong in that game. Now, I think on this occasion, it's a bit of a mixture of everything. We sort of spoke about it. You don't want this centre-back, this right side of centre-back to jump all the way over because it leaves a huge space and it's a lot of ground for someone like Rice to cover following Vitinha, who made a really clever run to sort of pull him away. Martinelli can be a little bit narrower in here as well to sort of get across and, again, try and cut off that space, which he does manage to do when Dembele gets the ball, manages to turn, and once he's done that, he's already sort of in a position to hurt you. Martinelli does do a good job to sort of slow him down, but they end up scoring the goal from it anyway. So you want to try and stop that access in general. But again, it's those movements and those pulling movements, because here you've got, I think that one would have been Gabriel. He's pinned. Was it Gabriel? It might have been Kivior, actually, because Gabriel was out. But he's pinned here. He can't jump out because if he does, there's a huge gap. So the left centre-back can't jump out. The right centre-back is a little bit too far away and leaves an even bigger gap, so he can't jump out. And again, over here on the left, it's Lewis Skelly. He can't get out either. So they're pinned across that back line. The movements drag them away, and they've found an easy entry pass into Dembele who can hurt them. Again, Arsenal, they were going man to man. So this is where I think Chelsea will need to, whilst I think they need to be somewhat passive, not passive, but it needs to be well timed when they go between sort of the hybrid pressing, the man-to-man pressing, and when we're sort of going to drop off and play in a little bit more of a mid-block. And that's going to be really interesting. But especially from goal kicks, they don't really have an outlet. So I don't mind going and looking to press them onto one side of the pitch and using that, again, using those fullbacks to press up really high, try and block them on that side of the pitch and win the ball. Because one, if you can win it in this corner, perfect. But if you can force them to play that ball inside, again, not as open as this, but if you can force that ball inside and you've got someone like Casado in there, that is usually quite a good area for Chelsea to win 2 or 3 balls back and actually use that as a chance to attack a little bit more of an unsettled PSG defence. So this is part of the game plan as well. As you can see here, Fabian Ruiz, we've seen it with Vitinha, we've seen it with Neves at times as well. They will make that rotation where they'll then release Nuno Mendes further up the pitch. On this occasion, Saka's actually with, I think that's Vitinha out here. Ruiz has dropped in, and then I think that's Neves actually. But what it means is Saka, he can pass that man on, and he's got an extra man on his midfield side here. So whoever's playing on the right, because it's Mendes, and whereas Hakimi doesn't need somebody to drop in to release him. He's kind of always got that license to go forwards and connect, play that. But that back three is formed with Mendes on the left side of it. He hasn't got Marquinhos on his side, the defender natural sort of to form the three. So he has to wait for that rotation to sort of settle so that he can be released. So that is why you kind of want your more active presser or your more active defensive presence on the opposite side, watching Hakimi, rather than maybe focusing on Mendes, who is, again, he's a massive threat, but maybe a little bit less because it requires a few more things to release him fully. Again, so from this, you can see going direct, you can see that when that ball goes direct, can these players swarm in? The strikers coming off the defenders, can they get involved with the midfielders and make that an overload for that long ball? If you can win those second balls in and around here, can you then carry from there and create quick chances, quick generation of chances from those sort of long balls into those areas to win second balls? And again, this shows that 4-2-3-1 again. Odegaard sort of following Vitinha. You've got the one here. You've got Martinelli a bit deeper, like I said, sort of ready to cover these two spots in case they sort of peel through. You've got the two in the middle, 2 hard-working midfielders as well that are going to do their bit. And again, this is the part against Liverpool that I was talking about, the long ball into Nunes that worked, and this is something that PSG have struggled with. Look how many, and look at the space. I know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 PSG defenders here along the back line, but then look at their next line of engagement. If you look at the 2 different lines of engagement, again, you could draw a huge box and where those Liverpool players are stood. That's where you can generate these chances from, these late runs and winning that second ball and attacking off that second ball. So that's a big factor. Now, if we go from here, now I've prepared, if I do that, this, bang. So, how would I set up for Chelsea? Now we're gonna say that Caicedo is available for the sake of this. Obviously, if he isn't, that makes it a whole lot harder. A lot of people know that I prefer Cole Palmer in the 10. But with what I was talking about and how sort of Saka and also Rodgers handled the role to be with Mendy, I want Palmer on the right. I want Enzo in the 10 to sort of be that Ødegaard Tielemans type where he's a third midfielder. He will work hard in those areas and he can sort of track the team around in those deeper spots. He's a bit more of a presence in there in terms of pressing and being a bit sort of more active in that area of the pitch. This needs to be 2 strong defensive midfielders. Now, if Santos isn't going to play, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw Reece James in midfield and we saw Gusto here. That would not shock me one bit because Gusto, like I said earlier with the fullbacks, when you're trying to trap, you want them to be intense. Both of these fullbacks, they are intense with their movement. So that is definitely something to keep an eye out for. And like I say, if Lavia isn't available and if Santos, for example, he doesn't trust him yet, I know that we've seen him in a few games, but it's final against PSG, so it's hard to predict what Maresca will think and do. I wouldn't be shocked to see Reece in there, again, just for that little bit more solidity behind Enzo. But that 3 in midfield is quite a big deal for me. The only other thing I could see is actually dropping Enzo completely, which doesn't sit really well with me because vice-captain has been captain when Reece is out, obviously. I just think he's got the mentality for this sort of game, and I wouldn't want to take him out, and I think he's just been really good for a long time now. The only other thing I would think is that João Pedro in the 10 with the lap up front, having that sort of 2-man dovetail would be really good for those long balls to really sort of take advantage of those spaces that we spoke about between the lines of the defensive line and the midfield line. However, João Pedro can also work hard off the ball to sort of do a similar job to what Ødegaard, Tielemans and even Enzo would do. So that's something to think about, but I just don't think he's going to drop Enzo. I think it's going to be one of João Pedro or Delap as the striker. Neto on the left, again, a big reason. We've got Palmer on the right for the other reason that we spoke about, defensively to sort of go with Mendes. With Neto on the left, it's a little bit more to do with how he can go with Hakimi. And again, if Hakimi goes forward, can Neto drop off so that Cucurella can come inside with Doué and sort of be attached to him? I just think that's a little bit easier for them to work hard. And again, you've got that athleticism to then, if there's going to be a big space left here, can Neto then peel off and hit on the counter when we go direct? So I think that's the side of the pitch that you kind of want Neto to try and attack. Whereas Mendes, usually a little bit more fixed in position, a little bit deeper than Hakimi most of the time. And again, he's been really good defensively. So I think that you kind of want to have Neto on that side for a few different reasons, not only off the ball, but also on the ball. In terms of other things we haven't touched on, I think the defensive partnership, it could be Tosin and Colwill. I just think Chalobah, again, if Colwill's going to be more of Colwill probably will follow, but I think both of these players have to be quite aggressive. You don't really need the height of Tosin in this game, and I think the aggression of Chalobah could be helpful to, again, depending on which one is pinned. If they can stay fairly close centrally so that one of them can't get pinned really far away so that Chalobah doesn't have to jump across sort of over to here. If they can stay fairly close so that the worst sort of pin that can happen is like that and the jumps can be sort of coordinated to which side, then I do think it would be better to have 2 players that are a little bit more comfortable jumping out. Hence Colwill and Chalobah. Now, let's talk about on the ball because, again, this isn't a game that I think we need to sort of not go for at all. Yes, we go direct a little bit more often in this game. Yes, we decide when to press man for man and when to drop into a block. When we drop into a block, you kind of want to have it, again, in that 4-2-3-1, but Neto's going to be a little bit deeper than Palmer. And then Neto can still retreat into here if he needs to as well to sort of almost form a 5-2-2-1 with Palmer being a little bit deeper as well at that point, or a 5-2-3, a 5-3-2, sorry, like this. So that's something that will sort of switch around. Lavia, I'm not sure if he'll be available, Tyler, so that's why I haven't put him in. What else? On the ball. So that's a lot of the off-ball stuff. On the ball, I would like to see, in this scenario, you form the usual back three like this, with Cucurella here. Neto will be a lot higher again, so let's just push them into sort of a back four like they do. Palmer, like we said again with Rodgers, I'd want him to start wide, but sort of almost like place himself between the two quite early, so that Mendes has a decision to make. Now, if it is, let's say Santos, Gusto doesn't start and Reece does, then you have to be a little bit more careful with the timings of this run and how often you allow Reece to make that run, because it really isn't something that we can trust him with fully yet in terms of the repetition of making that run. But if he can every now and again drift forward when Chelsea are on the ball, if we're keeping it slow, a little bit slower in here, yes, they're going to press high, so it'll be almost like this. Can Reece be that spare man, especially if Palmer pins Mendes? Can either Kvara will have to drop off, which will give you that extra man to, again, Chalobah can then bring that ball forward himself. Or if he commits that, then again, there's space for Reece to receive, and then he has that channel to himself, can kind of create that two-man with Palmer, which could allow Palmer to get more involved in the game if that's the side of the pitch where Chelsea can find the spare man. So again, that's another reason why to have Palmer out on the right rather than through the middle in this particular game. Again, those entry passes that we saw from here, from this side that we saw in those other games, that could be really helpful into João Pedro, as you can see with that. And again, I think he can deal with that really well. Of course, then on the ball, you've got Enzo who can sort of drift over to here. Again, if you want to push Santos forward at times, you can, but I think it will be very sort of 3-2 base at the very least. I think you'll try and keep that as sort of tidy and sort of tight as possible. So you've got Enzo who can float around centrally, Palmer who can come inside to create that sort of box again. I'm going to do it with the arrows just because it's easier. Create that box in the middle of the park. And then, like I say, Reece can be released a little bit deeper. So that's how it could look on the ball. So from that, what questions have we got? Let's go from there, because I think there's a lot to talk about with this. We're going to get back to the chat. We've got 135 people watching this. So a lot of people are clearly interested on how we might be able to beat PSG. If you haven't liked already, we should be able to get this to 100 likes straight off the drop. So before we get into any questions, let's check. We've got 48 likes. Can we get that to 100 really, really quickly? Could we get that to 100 really, really quickly? You'd have to feel very brave, because he's not going to track him, and then they're going to have that +1 every single time. Both their fullbacks do have rocket speed. They're hyper athletic, which is a big sort of part of that. I'm not going to go back all the way through to check all the chat. So if you've got new things to put in the chat, let's go from here. But again, let's do a quick sort of refresh. See what we're at. 125 viewers, 54 likes. That can get to 100 with ease. And from here, we'll open it up to the chat now. Questions. How confident would you be with this team? Is there any changes you'd make? What do you want to see? What don't you want to see? If I was being more realistic, I think this is more realistic than Andre starting. I think the other, it depends. If Lavia is fit, then maybe we get Lavia with Reece here and Gusto doesn't start. But I do think this could be, and I think that's why, Joel, because of Reece's legs. And Gusto can make this run, but also get back to sort of add that intensity really, really quickly. I think he can just do that a bit more repetitive. So I think that could be a real reason as to why. What's up, Robert? Let's go. Thank you. Up to you. Probably think Cucurella will be the one doing the runs in, whilst Jane's allowed to tuck in. The problem with that, right? Problem with that is, let's say that's Reece. Let's say that's Santos, right? Cucurella goes forward. Everything shifts over. So Neto isn't on the wing anymore, technically. He's in here. Enzo would sort of be over here. Palmer would be stuck out on the wing. Colwill there. Chalobah, so that could be tossing. So if we shifted it around with Reece tucking inside, then it ends up like this. And there's a lot of things I don't like about this. I want Colwill to be the central centre-back in this game. I think it sort of gives you the best chance to access those spare men, whether it's in the channels or in the middle. I want Neto to be that main outlet and to be able to follow Hakimi sort of both ways. So I want him out wide, and I think just keeping Kukurea back would be ideal. Just again to just be sort of a nuisance in and around those sort of, if that ball comes into here, can he jump, be aggressive, even if it ends up leaving a foul? Can he be aggressive in there? So that's just shifting it on Palmer, mate. Yes, but then that's the issue. I don't want to swap them because, like I said in the defensive bits, I don't want Palmer on Hakimi and vice versa. I don't want Neto on Mendes. I think they'll be able to access a lot better. Like, I think they'll be able to pierce through us quite a lot easier if you switch those two around. So that's why I wouldn't do that. I'm nowhere near as against Reece in midfield as everybody else is. Whoever just asked that, where is it, Georgie? But especially in this game, I think it actually makes a lot of sense if you're missing, again, purely because of the sort of role that you're going to ask Gusto or the right wing back to do. But if you trust Reece to do it for one game, then I would prefer him here. But it's all down to whether they think he's got it in the legs to do it for one. You go with Delap and JP up front, so we don't have to deal with their press. Like I said, yes, Zach, I don't know if you missed it, but definitely that's going to be part of it, trying to access this part. I don't think you can go with two up front, so I think the only other way to do that is to drop Enzo, play JP there, and Delap as the 9. But like I said, I don't feel great about dropping Enzo in terms of mentality and sort of winning mentality in this team. I think he's one of the main ones. João Pedro, left wing again. I want Neto there, really. So that's the big part about that. I don't agree that he's never looked good at all. Can play inside 10 with Neto out wide. Again, though, that still puts Palmer out on the right. Chalobah as the central. So there's still quite a few issues with that. With the recent midfield thing, what I will say is I don't think his interpretation of the role is brilliant, but I just think the quality he has is still excellent. Enzo on the pivot, I just think he's going to want two pure dual winners in there. If we win 1-0, happy days, Brigader. Happy days. Jackson Pedro up front to press their backline in another world, though. Mendes can pocket pretty much anyone, so if there was a player that might have a chance with Palmer. Hey, Will, let's go. What's up? Would you press high or sit in a low block versus PSG? So it's a hybrid press, sort of like I just said in the bit before. I'll try and get to your one in a second tactic. I'll scroll back up. I would press the man for man early in terms of like from goal kicks. I would then drop off into a 4-2-3-1 and sort of sit in more of a mid block and then look to counter. But again, if you can trap them in wide areas, that is when you can then access that man-to-man press. And it's going to be important how quickly, but also how well and which triggers to actually press and make those presses against the sideline, sort of like when it's trapped to one side of the pitch. That's going to be key. We do need Casado. Who asked me to read? It was Tactic. Where did you leave your last comment? This one. Should Cole man-mark Dembele like he did with Rodgers in the Prem? I definitely think he'll be the one jumping out more often, but the whole point of sort of having Chalobah in there with him and having quite a tight back four when you can with these, and then having Neto or even Palmer sort of do that bit out wide is so that they can't be then pinned too easily. So that, let's say Dembele is over here, Chalobah can be the one to jump and Cole can cover, and you can sort of do that between the two rather than it being forced that Cole has to go with him, even if Cole's all the way over here. That's like the issue. So you want to keep those distances a little bit shorter so that you're not trapped into doing it. You're not like, they're not deciding who jumps, you are. You want to take that sort of initiative out of their hands. Where are we? You go into the games, that's huge. Japan isn't demolition. I think we have a chance if we set up properly. If we had gotten, do you mean Gittins? If we had gotten right now, Gittin? Is that what you meant? Reece in midfield. Again, this is like just what I think could happen. I think like I would start Santos there and I'd start Reece here if you trust him to do the role that I've sort of been mentioning. But that all depends. Santos any chance to start? I hope so. What do you think of the comparisons of this PSG team to Pep's Barca? I think the fluidity-wise and sort of technical quality, I can see why there's comparisons. It's definitely one of my favourite teams to watch in the last few years. I wouldn't say he massively overthinks his tactics. Casado's fit, the midfield three, Enzo, Casado, Lavia should start. And again, that depends if Lavia's fit as well, though. And you'd go without Pedro Neto. I definitely wouldn't. Right, Pedro Neto has to start for me. Is Chalobah in the team so we make sure Cole will send the centre back on the ball? That, and also aggression, sort of to jump out. But yeah, both reasons really. 4-4-2. Again, I just don't think we're going to massively change formation. You did mean Gittins because of PSG press. Lavia should start. If he's fully fit and he can start over Santos, then sure, that's obviously the obvious thing to do. I just don't know whether Maresca is going to throw him straight in. I really don't. Yeah, go back when this goes live, Joel. You can watch it back. I'm also going to cut a lot of that video up, and then I'm going to add a few other bits to it because I've got a few sort of other bits of analysis that I wanted to add to that. And I'm going to upload it as like a bumper video tomorrow, which you guys can watch as well. So maybe from the bench, Nkunku as a part to play. What do you think? Who do you think Maresca should start up front? I think more likely JP, purely because of the way that he can affect the game between these two lines. Right, let's say those two sort of dropped off. I think he can be more effective there. So I think it would be important to bring him in. But either one works. Can't see Enzo not starting Enzo. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think it's going to be that. That's what I think it's going to be. Well, I think the midfield's the only other one I don't really know. Like whether that's James here, Gusto here, or Santos here, James here, or Reece here, or Lavia here, Reece here. A few different things. No, is JP a good target man? He is, yeah. I think he's really good link play. And again, especially against defenders who aren't hugely sort of physical. I think he can get the better of them physically, but also then cause problems by dropping in off that line to receive in this space here. So that's a massive reason why I think he could be huge in this game. Think we press heavily like Bayern tried or sit in a block? I think mixture. I think, like I said, it's all going to be down to what the triggers you decide to go on are. I think Mendes being on the ball in this area is a good trigger to sort of attack this side of the pitch, with Palmer trying to cut off here, James jumping, this side midfielder jumping, Enzo shuffling over and trying to trap that area. So that's one of the triggers that I'd probably use. But I think there's a lot of different sort of things it could be. Injury did Lavia pick up? I can't remember what it was, but it was in one of those games. Who was it against? Was it Benfica or the one? Was it Palmeiras? Might have been Palmeiras. Yeah, exactly this tactic. Use him to pin these players here. Go long into him. One, can he win it himself? Can he drop from here to here, get the ball and turn? Or secondly, can he just be a hassle and then have Enzo, Neto, Palmer, and even one of these deep midfielders running in to attack that space that we spoke about between the two? That's definitely a big part of using João Pedro in this game. Was it Benfica? Maybe it was. PSG had any suspension, yeah. So it's Pacho and Lucas Hernandez both out. Rohit. Let's refresh, see what we're on. Santos did start against Palmeiras, yeah. We're on 68 likes. We've got 132 people watching. I'm going to refresh that in 30 seconds. That has to be at 100, surely. By the way, ridiculous numbers right now because we have gone from... I hit 5K at midnight and we're already at 5,120. The zone replacement video absolutely banged, so it's still doing really well. So thanks a lot for the support on that. Let's get the support on this video or this stream up as well. Can they play together? Absolutely. Oh, what did I do there? Didn't mean to do that. The amount of pressure Sanchez will have to hit his targets on Sunday, make or break. Yeah, really is. Bots. Doing bots. Can Pedro and Delap play together? Do you think we might play the formation? No, I don't think we will, no. I don't think we will in this game. Could be wrong, but I think just for our possession reasons, I don't think we will. Love the zone replacement video. It enlightened me a lot. Yeah, I'm really happy with the zone replacement video. I think it's one of my best ones yet, in terms of especially giving insightful information. And it's not also just about Chelsea, so it's good for all fans. It's not just about us. Good about Chelsea, good about PSG. Mentioned a bit about Arsenal in it as well. So it still did well with my Chelsea sort of community, but then it also branched out a bit as well. So I think videos like that, I'm quite happy with how that went. 131 people, 72 likes. 80 likes, 20 more to go. 20 more to go. Keep the questions coming in. We'll go for a minute. We'll go for 5 more minutes. Tottenham. Somebody said this in the chat whilst I was recording the bit, and I didn't want to lose my flow. Tottenham getting Morgan Gibbs-White. They're not messing around if they bring in Morgan Gibbs-White and Kudus in terms of central carrying. Crazy. Alanga and Gibbs-White, though, both leaving. It's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. I don't think Maresca will trust Santos. Yeah, I don't think he will either, unfortunately. Should we think of playing like Botafogo? I wouldn't drop off that far now. I think if you give them too much, I think they'll just pierce through us. I don't think we're good enough box defenders to like really like sit off them for that period of time. So I wouldn't. I'm going to really quickly blow my nose again. Let's get, in the time I blow my nose, we should be at 100 likes because we're on 83 now. So 1 second. Okay. Thoughts on PSG starting routine? Yeah, they will do that. They've been doing that, and I think they'll continue to do that. They sort of go long from that goal kick, not goal kick, from kickoff straight into this corner, and then they'll look to press from the throw in. Definitely something they'll probably look to do again. It's interesting. It's different. I don't mind it, to be fair. I wouldn't start Jorgensen, no. Yes, he's better on the ball and a little bit calmer on the ball, but I think, one, with Dembele, you don't want to overplay anyway. You want to go long. Like, you don't want to risk it with him, with the quality that we've got even in Jorgensen. But two, I think we're going to be forced into saves, and I think I would trust Sanchez more to make those saves than Jorgensen. So that's sort of where I'm at with this game particularly. Yeah, I did see Tottenham on Vista as well. It's really, they're going in for some big sort of Premier League names in terms of like, you know, like Morgan Gibbs-White, Kudus. They're going for those sort of like signings like that. There's a lot of those this summer though. Cunha and Burmo, João Pedro, very a lot of movement prem to prem. Long distance thinks PSG's our level. That's interesting. Yeah, Sanchez being pressed is scary for sure. Are you happy with 8 attackers for next season? Nico, Cole, Gittins, Neto, and Kunku, Pedro, Delap, Esteban. Who's been taken out of that? Because if you've got Nico there, so you took out. There's no Madueke. Is that all it is? There's not a profile. I wouldn't say it's a profile missing there because you've got direct 1v1 wingers. And Kunku being in there, I think Nkunku leaving. I think Nkunku leaving in another left side, like a more natural left sider coming in, would be more likely. But I don't think that's the worst. Game plan should be to pin Nuno and Hakimi with Neto and Palmer, and then play 3 midfielders in the middle. Yeah. In terms of attack, like from attacking moments, yeah, I think Palmer's got to pin Mendes here and then drag him in for that late run. So yeah, I agree with the sort of premise of that. Where are we at? Delap and Jow start and play long and pick up the best second balls, smartest way. Yes, but then it's not as good for our press unless you're starting Jow in the 10, like I said earlier. Probably think we might play Delap and Pedro together. So again, same here. So Palmer's the 10, so where's João playing as the left winger? Pedro comes in through the left wing. So what? Again, no, that would mean Pedro Neto on the right. I'm not as happy about that. It could happen, but like I say, I think I've settled quite a lot on Neto being left wing purely to deal with Hakimi. That's how I would do it, based on all the games I've watched. Caleb Wiley I haven't watched enough of, Jason, but Diego Moreira, I really like him as an attacking fullback. I don't know how he'd sort of fare defensively long term, but it could definitely be an option to bring him back and have him sort of as a specialist for us. But yeah, Kukureya is so important because he can just do everything in terms of that. Again, if you've seen the zone replacement video, you'll realise how important Kukureya actually is. Possible weaknesses, physicality, finding them between those 2 lines of pressure, sort of those first 2 lines here, but also that can get much bigger at times. Can you find those gaps? Can you press them man for man when it suits, because they don't have an outlet ball? So those are the two main sort of weaknesses as such. Nico, Madueke, and Kunka will gone. I think one more name comes in. Yeah, I think that's fair. Can't wait for the channel to get better audio and video. See, I've done I've got like a new mic. The video's like, again, new headset. I don't know if it's just my Wi-Fi that maybe doesn't connect to make it look better, but I was literally doing it on my phone for ages. Now I've got webcam and I've got a new mic. So I don't know whether it's sort of Wi-Fi related as well. But yeah. Where are we at? Kukurea is a unicorn footballer, 100%. Like in terms of like, I wouldn't have called him a unicorn footballer, because like I sort of call that to like players that can do literally everything and also physically. But Kukurea is like, in terms of positionally, like he's a unicorn for us, definitely. Audio and video is fine, bro. Yeah. Cheers, Zach. Yeah. Trying to level everything up for sure. Do you think we're good enough out possession still with PSG's rotations? Honestly, no. I'm quite worried about it. But like I say, it depends how aggressive we choose to go, and depends like on the exact coaching details that Maresca decides to go for. So we'll go with that. Casado's not fit. This could literally be anything, because then let's say that Lavia is fit, and then Casado isn't. Then it could be Santos and Lavia, or it could be Reece in midfield and Gusto here. Like there's so many different options. Casado, though, we need him. We absolutely need him. No matter who's in midfield with him, like we need Casado. PSG have only conceded once, and they've played Atleti, Bayern, Real. Real didn't impress me, and they still had chances, by the way. They still had chances, but they didn't impress me at all. Bayern were really unlucky. I thought that first half they should have had one or two. Atleti, I don't know. I can't remember that game. I can't remember that game. Top of my head. We would have destroyed Real. It would have been I would have preferred that game for sure, of course. But they've got superstar players that could have caused massive issues against us. But I just think system for system, we could have actually had a chance just purely tactically in that game. If we look at Atleti, they should have won. Yeah, I can't remember the game off the top of my head, so I can't really comment on that one as in the same way that I can the Bayern and the Real Madrid ones, which are like a bit fresher on my mind. Who do you think scores? What space are most likely to end up in? Most likely to end up in, again, it's this area. If somebody's going to score for Chelsea, I think Neto on the break in behind Hakimi, sort of João Pedro winning that ball there. Pedro Neto attacking that space. I think João Pedro and Pedro Neto as that sort of double outlet is the key for Chelsea in this one. For PSG, just to know where we stand. That's the one thing positive that really does come from it. I'm really looking forward to watching the game either way, because we're going to learn from it one way or another. Where does he rank among Chelsea managers? Straight away? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Where would you rank him? Because I love Maresca anyway. Like, it doesn't even need to be ranked. Like, it would be brilliant for his sort of, for the fans that sort of are still sort of undecided about him. It'd be brilliant for. But where would you rank him? Let me know in the chat. Yeah, I feel like I've already touched on that, Michael, as to why it probably would work and why maybe it isn't ideal. But he'd immediately say top 5, but I'd have to spell it out. Oh, head immediately says top 5. Yeah, that's fair. It's a final. It's all positive. Yeah. Do you think Zhao would go to the left, allowing Palmer to attack the space? Oh, what? Like you mean like he can like cheat left, and then Palmer can attack in here? Yeah, that's definitely something that can happen. If you mean him going left from the striker position, then yeah. Top 5, maybe third. Yeah, I think because the conference league top 4, like, and also it's not just top 4, because like obviously loads of managers have done that, but I think it's the way in which we've done top 4, like the first one since the sort of return from like since leaving the Champions League, and I think I think it's the way in which it's happened. Maybe Mourinho, Tuchel, Carlo, Conte, Maresca. That's the thing. You got to have all the PL winning managers in there, haven't you? So I mean, Mourinho, Tuchel, Carlo anyway. Conte because he won the Prem. So if he is going to come anywhere, then it would be fifth. But then no, because it can't be, because it's got to be Di Matteo because he won the Champions League. It's got to be. I understand that that's like less manager, more, yeah, like you've just said, Zach Di Matteo strong. Purely on the fact he won a Champions League, I feel like he just has to go in there at 5th. But again, if we won the Club World Cup, Conference League, top, like Maresca's sort of like hovering around that 6th mark, isn't he? Possibly. Villa, Botafogo, Bayern, these games indicate that PSG is manipulatable. Yeah, like even the Arsenal games as well, like they just didn't manage that win. I mean, he was in charge. I know what you mean. Like maybe he wasn't like the deciding factor, but he obviously was in charge. Transition is how we hurt these guys. Yeah, for sure. That's why Pedro Neto is going to be absolutely key, as well as João Pedro. We're at 55 minutes. It is absolutely boiling. So if I'm going to quickly refresh this. If we can get to 100, we've got 91. Can we get that to 100 in the next few minutes before we end this stream? Because I'm going to head off, going to edit another video, which comes out tomorrow. If the game ends up being a situation where we constantly need to hoof it up, how do you change the setup to breed any results? For me, if we're going to change it, it would actually be like 60 minutes. We're still struggling 0-0, but you want to go a bit longer. Then maybe take Enzo out, you drop João Pedro there, and you bring Delap on, because then you've got that 2-man game with João Pedro in the 10 to go a little bit more direct that we've been speaking about, where you can have both of them pinning a defender, but him doing it from the number 10. And again, then you still have that with Neto in attack to sort of run off of them. So yeah, that would be, and then maybe instead of that, you drop Enzo into the midfield deeper if you really want to keep him on the pitch as well. And maybe then you don't send Reece on as much, and you try and use those longer balls from like these guys, and even Palmer dropping into here, and you use these three as your outlet players. If that's what you're trying to do, say 60 minutes in the game, and we're trying to go from there, then that's possibly what I'd like to do. Yeah, I know, Ryan. 115 people. We need the likes up though. We need 100 likes. It's mad though. That's what I mean. Like the subs, the video views, like on the zone replacement one, all massive, all really, really good. So I'm buzzing. Yeah, let's end on that. Zach said it in the chat. Let's end on predictions. So Zach's going 2-2 extra time, and then no idea what happens in extras. So he's saying draw, we go into extra time. Everybody else results. Valo saying 3-1 to PSG. We lose it in the last 10 after a spirited game. How would you guys feel about that? Because like if we go toe to toe and we lose, I still think that's a very, very successful tournament and even just game, because then we can see where we're at. 2-1 Chelsea win. Let's hope so, Finian. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Get your what do we call it? Predictions in the chat before we leave, and also drop a like, because we're on 97. 3 more. 3-0 PSG. 0-0 all the way to pens. 2-1 PSG. They get too early, but we get back into the game. Going toe to toe is a massive win. Yes, that's exactly true. 2-1 PSG. Winning at 77th. Close, and then they close up shop. Play a great match. So if a lot of people like, would you be happy if we, like Zach's sort of saying, if we go toe to toe and we're competitive, like Kaz says here, but we lose? Genuinely, like honestly, are you happy with that? Yes or no? Just put yes or no in the chat. 2-1, 2-1, 0-0, 2-1. Tactic and Moaz, are those 2-1 PSG or 2-1 Chelsea? Vish has 2-1 Chelsea. So a few people thinking, like again, Leo saying we win on pens in a 0-0. So some people are confident. Some people are confident. Val saying he would be happy. Proud's the right word. You're right, Robert. Proud's the right word. Proud. Yeah. Happy's the wrong word. That's my bad. What I meant by that is happy with the situation of like the game rather than the actual result of the game. So yeah, I understand that exactly. Like Zach just said, can't be happy if you lose, but proud. That's what I meant. Not happy, but not frustrated. PSG have only conceded once this tournament, so it'll be tough. PSG are the best team in the world, just making them work for it. Yep. Toe to toe Chelsea win. Ideal. Garrett Busby says 2-1 Chelsea. A lot of 2-1 Chelsea's. Michael said it up there as well. 3-2 Chelsea from Tobias. Did I miss any other predictions? I don't think so. Maresca is a master. Oh, that's like lagged out for me for some reason. There we go. Maresca is a master tactician. He'll cook something up against this PSG super team. It's the year of the underdogs. Let's hope so. It was the year of the underdogs, but then PSG won the Champions League. So, oh, we've got a few more here. That wasn't loading for me for a sec. You got to bring the trophy home. It will change when we waste chances. And for you, bro, prediction 2-1 Chelsea, 2-0 Chelsea. I'm going to go. Oh, it's tough, isn't it? Head says 2-1 PSG. Heart says 1-1 Chelsea. Take it depends. Anything can happen from there, pretty much like you said, Zach. But head says 2-1 PSG. So yeah, tough to look past PSG. Really, I just think they're the best team in the world by quite a way, really. Yeah, it's literally in our DNA 2-1 Chelsea. So many people, and I love it. I love the optimism. I wonder what happens if Sanchez has an unbelievably good game. From a fan perspective, do you still want him out? I think it's like it won't change how I feel about Sanchez. Like I think he's can make big saves when you need to, but he's always going to have a bozo moment in him. For one-off games and for cup competitions, he can easily be the savior because I think he's got the sort of like the goalkeeping quality to do it. But in terms of a shot stopper, but over an overall like a 38 game season, I think he's always going to make the mistakes which are going to cost you. So long term, no, but it wouldn't really change my sort of look of it. Yes, Zach, I literally just checked that run 103. So let's go. Big up to everybody. Except there's the zone replacement videos on like 250 already, 250 likes. The streams are getting 100 plus every time we stream, which like we're just creeping over the 100 every time, which is towards the end, which is good because then they grab an extra 50, 60, 70 likes when the stream ends. So the channel's doing really well. The channel is doing really, really well. And it's bringing up some really big opportunities for me as well. So really, really appreciate that from everybody involved. We're underdogs versus City and Bayern, and we won both, yeah, in the UCL finals. Robert has been real good in this competition, but Chelsea just needs someone to compete with him. Like I say, it's more just to do with the overall season for me. I just think somebody who's more consistent over a longer period of time. Right, we've been going for an hour. We're going to end it there. Check out the zone placement video if you haven't seen that. Leave a like if you haven't already on this stream. Check out the video tomorrow on how we'll beat PSG, which will have some extra content in it as well. All support on that will be brilliant to help the channel as well. And then from there, yeah, let's see how we go on to Sunday. So thanks for the support. Cheers, Robert. Cheers, Cobra. Everybody, Zach as usual. Everybody for the support. There's too many people to name. There's too many people to name because everybody's always here. Valo, top analysis. Let's go, Vishwas. Thanks, everybody. See you guys next time.